So in this video, we're going to go over the error checking. First, we'll go over the error checking for the demographics and stress test section, and then we'll go over the error checking for the image interpretation section. And the reason I have this up here is that the reason the error checking is so critical is that you have to comply with the IAC reporting standards. We'll click on that here, image interpretation and reporting. And so our reports have to comply with all of these reporting standards, which are hard enough to understand, let alone comply with. These are the IAC reporting standards. And then at the bottom here, it says for nuclear cardiology studies, a standardized report is recommended. That's the ASNC reporting guidelines. So I've got that over here. And as you can see, this is 65 more pages that reports have to be compliant with. And so doing this in an efficient fashion while making sure that reports meet all these reporting guidelines is impossible without good error checking and corrective messaging algorithms, in my opinion. So anyway, let's pull up our NuclearReporter Quick Start demo template here. And this has already got all of the data filled in. So let's just see what happens if we forget a few elements. Let's forget the patient's gender and maybe their height. And down here, let's just say we forget to choose a baseline heart rhythm. And maybe we say that there's flat to upsloping ST depression, but we forget to specify how many millimeters. So the way the error checking works is we're going to go up to our report automation tab, and we could process just the demographics section or just the stress test section, but we'll do both. We'll do the demographics plus stress section. And so the error checking runs, we did not, and it gives us these messages. We did not select a gender, that's a required element. Didn't enter the height, it's a required element, and the programming is not going to be able to calculate the BMI. And then no other errors in the demographics section. Also, we didn't select an item from the baseline heart rhythm, and there's a potential conflict in our description of ECG ST changes. Please review the report. No more errors in the stress test section. So this just allows you to create reports really quickly without worrying if you miss something, which is hard to do without some kind of automation like this. So let's just dismiss this here. It is going to ask us if we want to save the report, but we're not going to because it's not complete. And now we'll put the patient's gender in. We'll say he's a male and he's 5'10". And we will choose a baseline heart rhythm. We'll just say normal sinus rhythm, and we'll put in a number of ST millimeters depression. We'll say 2, and now we'll go back up, hit demographics plus stress, and we get this nice little success message, which just puts your mind at ease, like, okay, I've got all my IAC elements. There's no contradictions in here, and we'll create the report. So, but let's not save that now. We'll worry about that later. So now the stress test and demographics section has been completed, and let's go into the error checking on the image interpretation. So we'll go up to the report automation tab at the top, open our image interpretation builder, and the way that error checking works in the image interpretation builder and the way that you know that you have complete report is partially error checking, and it's partially these red labels. Everything with a red label is going to be an IAC required report element. So you have to say what the study was and whether there was an artifact. So we're just going to say it was an adequate study with no artifacts. So those are labeled in red. We don't have to choose a third, or rather a second or third artifact because there may not have been one. And things like processing technologists, comments to the interpreting physician, that's all optional. So let's just say we're doing a quick normal report, which is just a couple clicks. We're going to choose our EF. We'll say it was 54. And we'll go down here and choose a name for the interpreting physician. But we'll forget to say, we'll check the no previous box because it's an IAC requirement that we say no previous or we compare to the previous study. So let's try to create our report. Well, we get a little error message here. You did not state no previous or compare to previous. This is a requirement. So let's dismiss that. And now we'll check our no previous box and create the report. Congratulations, you get a nice little message here. Your mind is at ease. You know everything is consistent and accreditation compliant and complete. We'll create the report and go down here, and sure enough, everything looks in order. I'm just going to go up here to the top over to this little square where it says unhighlight and turn off all the highlighting in this report so it looks a little bit better. So let's go back and do an abnormal image interpretation. We'll just open this up again, and the study quality and artifacts, they sort of carry over, but everything else is all of our old choices are erased. So this time we're not going to do a quick normal, and when we don't do the quick normal, then we use the perfusion and the wall motion tab. So for perfusion over here in red, we've got LV comment, and we'll say it was a normal sized LV, but we'll say it was abnormal with regional defects. So now this turns up in red because we said there was a regional defect, so we have to add a perfusion defect. And now size, severity, reversibility, and segments light up because we have to describe those. Those are all required elements. And we've got our ASNIC appropriate terminology in here. Well, let's just say he had a medium, moderate severity. Let's forget the reversibility so we can see how the error checking works. And we'll just say this was an anterior defect. And we'll forget to describe the reversibility. The way this works is these top descriptors here, those are all the ASNIC specified descriptors. So if you're accredited by the IAC, then you should use these descriptors. If you're accredited by ACR, you can go down here and use one of these. Also, these pre-existing fixed, these are useful if it's a stress-only abnormal study. Now we'll go to the wall motion, and was a gated study acquired? By default, that is yes. And we're just going to say that this was normal wall motion. So no functional defects, but down here in red, EF, we have to describe an EF. But let's just forget that because we're checking out how the error checking has worked. And this time we will check the no previous, and we'll create the report. And here are our error messages. You chose to add perfusion defect 1, but you didn't fully describe it. Please make valid choices, or default all the choices and say that the perfusion is homogeneous. Also, you need to enter an EF. So let's just dismiss this error message, and we'll go back to the perfusion tab, and we'll say that defect was reversible. Down here, you can call it something different in the impression. You could call it stress-induced ischemia, but as you can see, that label is in black, so it's not something that's required. And if you left it blank, the error checking wouldn't flag it. So for wall motion, on the wall motion tab, let's say that we measured a post-stress EF only, and it was calculated at, we'll say, 55. And now we'll create the report again, and we get our nice little success message. Everything's complete, consistent, and accreditation compliant. So let's create the report, and there it is. So that's how you can quickly create reports. And, at the end of the day, you don't want to be straining your mind to look over the minutia of these reports and worry if you included everything and if everything is worded correctly and it all makes sense. That's just the last thing you want to be doing at the end of the day, and spending excessive time. As you can see, this is a Word document, and the grammar checking is on, and the spell check is on, and there's no blue squiggly marks, which means all of the spacing, the grammar, everything there is perfect. And the only thing it flagged spelling-wise was that Sestamibi, it doesn't recognize that, and it doesn't recognize the abbreviation for millicuries. So that's the error checking. Thanks for watching.